Uh, Welcome to IA Command. I'm Tori Ease.
I'm Hita77.
I'm Johnny B815.
All right, so last time on the show, Haida did join us, even though we expected him to join us. He never did.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's fine. So the question, how do you like the new maps?
The new maps?
The new
Well,
maps.
let me start by saying I'm glad they changed them.
Absolutely.
So it couldn't have been worse. So it got better, right? Aside from that, I think they added some decent maps. I kind of wish Luke's map had gone, but I can see why they kept it. It is one of the, despite it being one of the more boring ones, it actually does work relatively well. I'm not so sure about IG88's map being one of the ones picked. That one seemed like an odd choice to me, but given that one's really, it's a very small map, and all the missions are kind of like force you into the middle, so that's kind of interesting. Let me say this: my first thought after seeing the list was maybe my idea of what's good and bad might shift based on what maps you had to play on. Especially because I feel like some of the heavy hitters, when you get the bounty hunter mission, can be kind of ridiculous. So like Vader or the Royal Guard champion or stuff like that gets kind of just like stupidly good when you're getting double points every time they kill something. Vader in particular, because he's going to kill a lot of stuff. But other than that, I mean, I'm glad they changed them. I'm not so sure the choices they made would have been my choices, but like we were kind of talking about the last time I was on, I don't know that they had, like, if you go by just maps, like if you're just picking maps, I don't know that they had like really good options. I mean,
right.
I think it's, honestly, I do think it'd be better if they just cherry picked missions and not maps.
I agree. I really do agree. And I was looking through the maps a little bit more in detail since last week when we got the news all at once. And the map that really stuck out, the mission that really stuck out, was the most dangerous game, where you get to choose a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
And you guys probably already know this, but it's before you set up, you declare a bounty hunter, and then whoever he kills is worth twice as many points.
Yep.
And I thought this would be an amazing map for Darth Vader, because Darth Vader can do do damage to 3 different figures and potentially kill 3 figures a turn. I mean, probably 2, depending on how you have them set up, what command cards you draw, and a lot of different.
Yeah, the RGC is also really good on that map, because he's also got brutality, and then he's also got the ability where if they try and kill your other stuff, then he like can randomly kill another thing, which is really annoying on that map when he's the bounty hunter.
Right.
There's some other units though that are also pretty obnoxious on that map. So like Elite Royal Guards are pretty annoying on that mission. The Elite Tranishans are actually pretty strong on that mission. I've actually played with those myself. Elite Saboteurs can be pretty nasty on that map, depending on what your opponent's playing. So yeah, there's actually a few units that are pretty solid as being your bounty hunter pick, and most of them are elite or better. Usually some elite or unique guy. But yeah, no, like so that
potentially
really interesting.
Potentially 3 figures 2 figures I see as really benefiting from this is IG88, because of his assault ability. I feel like he's made for this map. And then the Scum upgrade, I think, is a very interesting choice on this by itself. The plus 4 points on either side if you have IG88 just trying to gun down as many points as he can. I think that's at least some combinations that can happen. But I think Celebration actually makes this game interesting, because if you bring her, and this is going to happen probably 2nd, 3rd round, so you're already going to have the victory points. But say you get Vader first turn somehow, and you have a Celebration, there's a chance that this game's over round 1.
Yeah, I hear.
Because Vader's 18 points times 2 is 36. It would take a whole lot per turn, but good.
Yeah, let me say this. I think if you kill Vader, you deserve to win. So especially
If you kill
playing Vader, that's
your
like
bounty hunter, you win.
Um, no, I wouldn't say like celebration becomes more valuable necessarily. I mean, what you're talking about is more of like a points rush strategy, right? Where you're just
Right.
going to try and kill a few guys and get double points and then basically end the game as quickly as possible. I'm not so sure if I was going to do that, if celebration would be the card that I'd be most concerned with. I think the one where you actually have to lose an action to put it on a unit, because it can go on anybody, I think that one's actually better. Because then you don't have to kill a unique guy, which in general, if they've taken a unique guy, that's going to be their bounty hunter. So if you kill their bounty hunter, it doesn't matter who their bounty hunter is. If you kill the opposing bounty hunter on that map, it's very likely you're going to win, right? I mean,
I agree.
Let's say I took, 2 Trandos, elite Trandos, and you killed both of them. Like, I have basically no shot at winning now, right? Because you're going to be getting double points at certain points, and I'm not, right? And I'm also losing the round points, which I think is like 2 to 4 points somewhere in there, just for having your bounty hunter be alive, right?
Right. Yeah,
so
and that's why I would.
If you kill your opponent's bounty hunter, I think the game's basically over. So I wouldn't necessarily say I think Celebration's like a lot better on that map. I do think that what you're talking about is like it's kind of like what people talk about on the Han Solo map with the table that gets exponentially more points on it, is that you kind of just try and get ahead and then control the table to automatically win, right? But I mean, Celebration's not a bad card in and of itself. It's just you have to have the right list for it. I think that one's a little bit trickier to play, and I hear what you're saying. Where you live in the dream, but let me say this: if you kill Vader and get 36 points, like Celebration or not, you have won.
Yeah, no, and that's what I was going to say. Yeah. Or I think that this is going to happen round 1, because if you have your bounty hunter turn 3, you've already gained those 4 points.
Yeah. So I definitely think the Rogar Champion is definitely worth looking at again. I think that map alone makes him a lot more interesting. I think Vader, obviously, like we've been discussing. I think
Vader is a hit or miss on this map. I think it's either going to win you the game or lose you the game.
See, I disagree. I'll say this: if he loses you the game again, I think you deserve to lose, right? I mean, anytime you're talking about a guy who's got double black dice and that can potentially have a +1 innate block because of Rogar's like hounding him all the time on a map where all you have to do is kill stuff, and it's a relatively small map where he's going to be able to get in their face and stuff. I really feel like if he loses you the game because of his point cost, then you deserve to lose, right? Then you've messed up somehow, right? Because I really feel like Vader's Fist in particular is just, or some variation thereof, is actually a pretty awesome list on that map. Especially the one where like a lot of people have been playing Vader, 2 Rogards, and then only a few officers, right? Like I think it's 3 officers, right? I think that list is like that's like its dream map, right? Dream mission, because you've got a guy that's an obvious bounty hunter. It's a small map. You've got a lot of melee guys who can hit from relatively far away. You've got the officers backing them up to get them into melee and stuff like that. I think that's just like is there a map that was a better fit for that list, right? I don't think there is one. That being said, and same thing goes for the other side of that map too. The laser map is also definitely one of those ones where you get in that one hallway and there's not really a whole lot of room to move without getting yourself killed somehow, right? So if you pop Vader right in the middle of that map, that's a big problem, right? And so it kind of goes back to like the whole 9-act thing, right? I actually don't like, and I've been a big 9-act guy, but that map, that being one of the 3 maps is definitely a big problem for 9-act, because you really can't take a good advantage, or at least not as good of advantage, of your mobility and your action economy on that map, either of the missions, as you could on some of the other bigger maps.
So how do you feel about like a ATST just being able to move the guys down potentially? Well, I think that sounds amazing. It sounds fun.
again, I kind of feel like that map. It's such a small map that like a lot of the movement related abilities are actually relatively limited, and maybe that's a good reason for picking that map. Because everybody's been talking about the officer and 9-act or 8-act or whatever Imperial list, right? Where you're getting a lot of movement and you're getting a lot of action economy.
Right.
And that map actually does hurt that list, those type of lists, pretty well, right? Because the officers have to be too close. Everything has to be kind of mushed up. When everything's mushed up, you don't get like movement becomes less relevant, right? It's a little bit more tricky. That one it hurts that map, those kind of lists a little bit. Now that being said, I do think that like a Weiss in particular, I think he's actually pretty good on that map. Not because he's got a lot of mobility or that action,
Blast.
but because the double surge for Blast 3 could be really bad. Especially if, like you said, if you got the bounty hunter map or mission and he's your bounty hunter or whatever.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think that map in particular favors some of the uniques or some of the bigger heavy hitters. Like I said, like the Elite Trendos is another good example because I feel like Elite Trendos, their biggest problem is their mobility combined with needing to be in melee to do the maximum amount of damage. And you talk about a small map like that where their movement or lack thereof is not going to be as big of a problem. Plus, they're going to be able to get that +2 damage innate pretty regularly and maybe get focused and that kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden become like, Royal Guard killers, right? I mean, that's a big problem, right?
Right.
But like I said, I'm not. Had I been choosing the maps, that's probably not one of the maps I would have chosen.
Stop talking. Something's going on.
Okay. What's that?
It's going back and forth and very choppy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it me?
I'm not sure. Am I choppy?
No, you're not, but I'm hearing it too. It's fine. I mean, we're getting a little bit of choppiness. I'm just hearing like
I can't
kind of a
even
mechanical, but I can hear him. I'm understanding him, but maybe Johnny's not. Like sporadic. I understand all of the content you're saying. I mean, it's just once in a while you'll buzz in and lag out, but you catch right back up.
Okay. All right. Well, do you want me to like reconnect or something, or?
No, you're fine. So, do you want to go ahead and?
Isaac, you're really bad too.
Am I?
Yeah.
Well, do you hear
My
me?
connection.
Yeah, maybe it's your connection. Give us a second here.
Yeah.
Because Matt's really fuzzy for some reason too, and he normally isn't fuzzy.
All right, we'll make it a quick show. That way, there's not a lot to edit out. What we're doing right now. All right. Well, let's get back into the missions. Second mission was the Kuwait space station missions. How do you feel about these missions?
I don't hate these ones. I think. I mean, I kind of feel like there's always the one mission on one of the. Each map has one mission that I'm just not a huge fan of.
Right.
And so, I feel that way about this one. I actually had to go back and look at what the missions were for this one because when they say Kuwait, I was like, all right, which one was that again? Like I said, I don't hate this map. I think this map is one of the more mid-range ones. I think this is the one that's got the defense buff, right?
No defense buff.
Okay, all right. So it's not.
This is the one. No, this is the one with the doors are locked. You can send one of your figures to a terminal if he controls the terminal.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
like the data core or whatever, right?
Right, and then the other one is place one strain token on each relay station.
Yeah. Okay.
The control the relay station, you can discard it.
No, I actually kind of like this one. I think this one was a decent pick. I'm not saying that. Like, I think all the maps definitely have like I said, maybe a little tweak that you might make, but like I said, I definitely like this one. I think this was of the three. I think this is the best map to have. I think Luke's map is probably the second best, and I think the IG88 one is. and maybe not the best of the entire pool, but definitely the best of these three. I definitely like one out of these three maps the best.
It definitely makes Blast a thing, a major thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of the maps do that, though, in the Wave 1 stuff. A lot of them are either smaller or a lot bigger, and I think the bigger ones tend to be the better ones, in my opinion, but the small ones, I mean...
Well, then again, you're usually running 9.
Well, yeah, in general. I just mean that, like, the nice part about having a big map is that, like, certain effects are still relevant, but not overly powerful, right? So, like, Blast and Cleave and movement is more relevant, so that, like, taking a 4-speed versus a 5-speed model matters more, right?
Right.
And that's something you actually want, right? You don't really want to have, like, the IG-80 maps is the exact opposite, right? It's small enough to where I can take a 4-speed model and not worry about it too much, right? Where if it was a 5-speed, that's great, right? I'd rather have 5 than 4, but if I'm wanting to take a 4, then I'll take a 4, and it's not the end of the world, right? Whereas on a map like the Shadow War or whatever, the Trooper map, that one, like a 4 versus a 5 feels really like humongous, right? That those extra spaces every turn add up over the course of the game, and you can really feel that. And so it encourages you to take some of the faster models, which is a good thing in a way. Like I said, in a way, I'm all for choice, right? And so if I'm having to look at a map and think about, okay, well, how does this adjust my choices, right? I think that's the kind of map you want. And so maybe having a small map like IG-88s and then also a big one like the Shadow War map, the Trooper one, that would be a good mix, right? Because then you've got this gigantic map that you have to worry about speed, and then you have a smaller map where you really got to worry about power, right? And then you have to come up with a more balanced approach. Whereas I kind of feel like these maps, the ones that they chose, are a little bit more on the small side. So the 6, 5, 4 speed, all are not identical, but definitely feel a little bit closer together.
All right.
What do you?
Hold on, Johnny. When we talked last time with the regional one in Washington, I can't remember names. I'm sorry. But we talked about incoming transmission, and at the end of the round, string token, and each station becomes 3 points with however many string tokens times however many string tokens. Mm-hmm. So at what point, control it, do you discard the station? Do you discard it as soon as you have control? Obviously, if you're going to lose control of it, you're going to want to, if you believe that they're going to be able to get to the next round, you're going to and overtake it. You're going to want to go ahead and discard it so your opponent can't. But what about when you just have one Imperial officer and the fight's not even happening there? It's too far away for anybody to really get to it. Do you wait until win the game to discard it, or do you just discard it and get your Imperial officer back down there?
I think that map, you definitely want to be careful about discarding them. I think as a general rule, like, the only ones I would want to really discard are the ones that I know I'm never going to get control of, right? So, as an example, if my opponent goes for one of them really hard and his whole army's there, or his whole list, basically, and I don't really see myself, getting that one without killing a vast majority of his stuff anyway, then that would be obviously a pretty obvious one to discard. I think the other ones, the ones that you feel like you can contest at the very least, I don't think you'd really want to discard them, because it forces your opponent to have to consider it, right? I think it's kind of one of those, like, he could leave that one or he can stay there, and either way, it's not going to help him, right? If he leaves, then that he's giving up potential points, right? If he stays, then he might be giving up points elsewhere, right? And so you can kind of game him a little bit more the more of them that are up. Like I said, and the only issue that you do have, if you do get rid of ones that your opponent has full control of, right, is that then he'll move his entire army closer to you, right? And so I guess you could make the argument that the only ones you really want to destroy are the ones that are going to lose you the game. So that's a tricky question though, because it's kind of situational. It's one of those, like, it kind of depends on what your list is, what you're set up for, where which deployment zone you're in, that kind of stuff. I'll say this: I would generally not want to get rid of them because I would look at it as being potential points that could give me a win. But if I'm going to lose the game, then I'm going to discard them, right? So, so I can stay and try and get a win.
Okay.
But again, you kind of have to play this control game, right? It's a control map where you're trying to control where you can get points and make it so it hurts your opponent and helps you. So again, that's a tough question. Tough question to answer. It's a little bit.
Well, your thinking is kind of my train of thought. I just express it as well as you, but that's the perfect way of expressing it. You're giving your opponent more options, and it is potential points. You use it until it's a liability. I mean, if it ever becomes a liability, then you obviously discard it. But otherwise,
and like I've had games where, and not on that specific map necessarily, but where your opponent abandons something because he feels like he's got control, and then you can swing around and take it, and that assures you the win, right? So again, it's kind of like the water map, right? Where I've seen people go for the top box a lot. I don't generally advocate that. I would rather have the third one. But that being said, I've seen people go for it, and then they realize halfway through the game they have to abandon it, and then I've shot an officer or a stormtrooper over there to cap it so that I can get the win, right? And so obviously, if I had the option to turn that box off, right, and deny him the points, then I might do that depending on the game state, right? But in the end, it might hurt me because that's another source of points for me as well, right? So it's kind of one of those. It's a tough call. It's a tough call. That's a situational thing. I don't think there's one strategy to that. I think the only thing I will say is that if you can force your opponent to fight you, right? So if you're a list that wants to fight and your opponent is trying not to, then maybe you do want to deactivate all the terminals, like as many as possible, to force them to fight you, right? But I don't really see that. I mean, my experience with competitive gaming teaches me that the best way of winning is not interacting with your opponent, if possible, because every time you interact with your opponent, you introduce a random factor, right? I mean, that's usually where in a game you have the most random, right? So like in a card game, a lot of times when you get in a conflict, you're worried about what can be in your opponent's hand, right? And how the numbers are going to add up. In a minis game, you're worried about what can my opponent roll. Maybe his rolls will go better than mine, and I'll get trucked, right? That's where you have all the random. We're fighting, right? If I can score points without having to introduce that random factor, so as an example, the smuggled goods map, where you can just go grab the boxes and run in for the win, right? That's the perfect example, right? I don't have to fight with my opponent to score a vast majority of my points, so I can limit the amount of random in the game, right? And just score a whole bunch of points, and then only have to suffer a little bit of random to get the full victory, right? So yeah, I definitely think that's kind of where the missions. That's why it tends to be a kind of an even spread of points from a mission versus killing your opponent, because the mission is the least random part of the mission, or of the map, or whatever,
of the game, right?
Because if you do certain things, you're going to get the points, right? Whereas attacking stuff or defending, or vice versa, right, is sometimes you roll all blanks on your white dice and you just get pain trained, right? I mean, that happens, and that's the danger of risking stuff, right? Less risk equals more wins usually, and that's not to say you don't ever have to risk something, but you definitely try and limit it as much as possible.
All right, so great things. Do you think we'll have maps worlds?
We'll have new maps and worlds. Is that what you asked?
Yeah. Do you think? I
Uh,
obviously think we will, but
it's hard for me to say. I don't think so. I would. I mean,
okay.
maybe not. I could go either way on it. I mean, if there's a big problem with these maps, then probably. I don't think there necessarily is. I think it, based on what maps are selected, I think it does warp the meta slightly. And I do think that in general, you'd rather keep the maps you had at nationals to be the maps at worlds. Just because that if you introduce new maps for worlds, there's a potential that one of the maps is broken and you just like totally destroyed a tournament, right? Potentially.
Well, I mean, like right now we have different nationals doing different maps. The UK did the
Yeah, well,
three
they
regional
were a little
maps.
earlier. I mean, I get you. I could go either way on it. I think. Uh, I'll say this: if they were gonna do a different map, I think the map I'd want replaced is gonna sound weird, but I think I'd like the Luke mission to be different.
I,
Because
I
while we've been sitting here talking about it, I kind of like the idea of having a small map with a lot of point variation there, and then a bigger map with less variation, right? I mean, because then you get a wider variety of objectives and stuff that you have to think about when you're constructing your list, right? And so
Well, let me chime in. It says on the thing that season 2 lasts from July to October. When is Worlds?
oh, there we go. There's the answer.
well, I don't know if I wouldn't necessarily call that an answer because it's entirely possible that they'll come back in October and say, "Yep, we're sticking with these 3 maps," right?
Yeah, there's that possibility.
But that does lend to the idea that they won't be doing that; that they'll be picking 3 different ones. So
This will
fingers crossed, they'll be picking individual missions, which would be the
well that would be amazing. I don't know what's in the new packs. I assume they're going to be picking missions from the new like Boba Fett, which we'll be talking about here in a minute. But we don't need the Twin Shadows expansion to be able to play that, and there's just a lot of fun things behind that I would like to know, but we'll find out at Gen Con. So, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to go ahead and switch to the next topic, which is the update we had today, which I haven't had a lot of time to look at, so my ramblings will be nothing but ramblings that are quick. Anyways, so I want to grab one card out of here before we start talking, and then great. All right. So with the new maps, we have a fully done Boba Fett as a preview.
Yeah.
And I don't know, he wasn't fully spoiled, was he?
No.
Because
We knew some of the
first
stats
time
and
I'm seeing.
golf and stuff, but we didn't know all the abilities. I think some of them were a little bit tricky to read from the earlier previews.
All right. So Boba Fett, he is a monster in this game, from what I'm saying. Costs 13 points. He's Boba Fett. He has 1 block and also 1 surge cancel as just his regular thing. He's mobile, which is awesome. He has a surge for Pierce 1. He's a little weak in his surges. At least his Pierce 1, I think, is a little weak.
Well, we'll get to
And then he has, we'll definitely get to that. He has a surge for Weaken, which we've talked about before, but for those of you that forget, Weakened is kind of like a bleeding effect. It goes on a enemy player. It's while attacking, apply -1 surge to the attack result. While defending, apply -1 surge cancel to the defense result, and then you discard that at the end of your activation. So it doesn't last a long time. Boba Fett, he has a couple of abilities. After a hostile figure, it's battle present. After a hostile figure voluntarily exits adjacent to you, that figure suffers 1 strain, limit once per figure per round. And then this is the really nice ability, which is Battle Discipline. when you declare an attack, choose one of the following abilities to apply to that attack. It's either +2 accuracy, surge for 2 more damage, and then surge for recover 2. So his ability for Pierce 1 at first doesn't seem good, and then you can add 2 damage to that. It makes it a little better. His health is speed is 6, which is insane. He has a black defense die, which is amazing because he has that +1 block. If you pair this guy with Rick, I think he's amazing. And his attack is blue, yellow, green. How do you feel about Boba?
I like him a lot. I think his flexibility from the battle discipline really helps him quite a bit. I think 9 times out of 10 you're going to be picking the +2 damage in general. I think the recover 2 will get picked a regular amount. I think the accuracy is not going to be picked as much, but it is kind of nice to be able to pick people off from relatively long range. Because you already got a blue, green, and a yellow, which are some of the better range dice, and then +2 accuracy on top means that you can shoot from a good 7 or so spaces away and have a decent amount of hope of actually hitting something. Most of the time,
you guarantee a range 5.
Yeah. Well, I think I guess it's guaranteed range 5, and then like 6, 7, 8 is 8's a little pushing it, but 7 is about the limit of your range of that +2 accuracy. Unless you get really roll really well. No, like I said, I actually like him quite a bit. I think the only thing I'm not sure about is the price point. I think 13 is pretty expensive, and if you're talking about like you were mentioning, putting royal guards with them, you're really talking about 14 points, right? Because you have to take the ally card.
Right.
Or 13 and a half maybe. But like I said, I
think it's 2 figures.
Right. I actually kind of like him. I think he's a good figure. I think the blue, green, yellow, I think there were some people that were slightly disappointed with that they felt like he could have had a stronger attack. But I think given his surge abilities and his overall flexibility, I think he's actually pretty good. I'm not huge on I think we were talking about a little bit, battle presence, the strain thing. I think it's not bad. I think, though, with a Speed 6 mobile model that has a range attack, I'm not sure that I really want to be next to things, not generally. I think I'd rather, this guy is like the ultimate in fighting Vader, right? Because Vader cannot catch him. Right? He has to double move just to get to him. I mean, not without officers or something. And sure, Boba may not do a whole lot of damage, but eventually he's going to do some damage, right? So he can just kind of fly all over the place. I really like having Speed 6 and mobile. I think his defenses are appropriate. I think having the Recover 2 helps his defenses a lot, right? Where you've got already a black dice with +1 block, +1 evade, and then on top of that you have a surge for Recover 2 on dice where you can reasonably expect to get surges. I think that's actually really, really strong. Again, I'm not sure about 13 points, though. I think had he been in the 11, 12 range, I think he would have definitely been just a monster. I think at 13, it's a little bit more... He's playable for sure. I just don't know that I wouldn't necessarily consider him auto-include or anything like that. But he's definitely really good. Like I said, I like him quite a bit.
Well, he has a couple really good command cards.
Yep.
Let's do the command cards first.
Yep.
Which the first one is Capture the Weary. It's an action. Choose an adjacent hostile figure. That figure becomes weakened. If that figure already weakened, it suffers 2 surge. Any hunter can use this, so that would be good for like a Trando list with Boba, or even just Boba. I'm not a big fan of this card because it does nothing but takes an action and causes 2 strain.
Yeah, I'm not huge on this card. Honestly, I would like this card a lot more if it wasn't an action.
Yeah.
I think if it wasn't an action, you could justify it pretty well. Because Weekend, like you mentioned, isn't like the most game-breaking effect, but I think it does have a pretty significant impact on the game.
Well, it does if you're playing those strain because all you're doing is causing strain, and eventually those strains will be 2 damage, but usually a shot will be 2 damage anyways.
Yeah, I just mean that, like, if you're talking about like cards that give out strain, I think this is actually one of the weaker ones. No pun intended. Um, I think the ones that are already out are generally better at causing a good amount of strain or having a pretty significant drawback. I think this one's drawback of just becoming weakened, and if you're already weakened, you get to suffer strain. I don't know. It's kind of one of those when we have more stuff that weakens stuff. I mean, like in this one, we're getting Boba and we're getting the Tuscans, who both have the ability to weaken stuff. But it's one of those, like, the Tuscans typically have to be relatively close in order to weaken their opponent. And then are you going to have the extra action to be able to actually do the weaken? On a Boba, do you really want to be using one of his actions to just weaken or do 2 strain when he's got 6 move with mobile and a pretty significant range attack? I don't know. I think this card's not bad. I just don't think it's great. I don't see myself playing it right out the gate. I mean, it's only 1 point, so that's not terrible, but I kind of wish this had just said Hunter, choose an adjacent figure, no action, right?
Yeah, I agree.
That would make it worth playing, right? I think the action loss here is a little tough to swallow.
I agree. The next card is Jump Jets, and I like the Jump Jets because one is the card art has me really excited for the movie, which it looks like Boba Fett's out of a Sarlacc pit. So it's a lot of speculation whether or not we'll see Boba Fett in the movies. And being that Fantasy Flight is now working with the movies, I'm hoping this is some kind of Easter egg. It's just out on a limb.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go and say that I don't think it is, and the reason I don't think it is, this art was actually already used in the card game a year or two ago. I think it's really just an EU Easter egg more than it is maybe a possible spoiler, but I could be wrong. I would actually welcome being wrong.
All right, so it's any small figure, and I really like the card art on this because I think it captures what it does. It takes an action to place your figure in an empty space within 5 spaces. Now it sounds like bad because he already has mobile on Boba Fett. He has mobile and he can move up to 6 spaces, so why would you want to use this card? I think if you're stunned and you need to move, or I don't know, because you won't be able to attack, but you might be stunned and then use your weaken ability if you have the weaken command card. It could be interesting what you pull off, but this allows you to move stunned. I'm not a huge fan of this card, but it can work. Takes an action. What do you think?
I was initially very pleased with this card. I think I've come down on it a little bit. I think Johnny and I discussed it a little bit, and I think he's right. I think there's very few figures where this card is actually going to be like of huge significance, and I think it's actually a little bit more map dependent. And like I said, he and I discussed it a little bit. It's just one of those, like, if you already have 5, let's just say you have 5 moves, right? You have 5 speed.
Right.
It's going to be tough to justify playing a card that basically does the same thing as your innate move action.
Not to mention you are already mobile.
Yeah, I think
so.
I think the one thing about this is it kind of does give you mobile in a way, so that there is a little bit of shenanigans you can do with it.
Mobile doesn't. If there's an enemy figure, you still have to pay twice, right?
No, mobile gets you through to buy that.
Does it?
Yeah.
I was thinking. Okay.
Yeah, no, it gets you by that. So no, like I said, I don't know. This card, I could see it being played in certain lists, and especially if depending on what map selection there is. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go with, Johnny and I were talking earlier, and I think I'm gonna go with what he was saying, is that it just seems okay. Like I said, it's not a bad card by any stretch of the imagination, but I wouldn't necessarily like jump on this because there's already so much 5 move speed, and like Boba already has mobile, so you don't really need it for him. Like Pro Droids could potentially use this because they're relatively slow, but they already have mobile. Again, it's one of those like, am I going to pay 1 point and use one of my 15 cards for this? I'm not sure about that.
I mean, another thought I would have is, this would be amazing on a what do you call those things? EWUB, because I'm all about the EWUB, but it's small figure, so it doesn't work on an EWUB.
Yep.
Okay, and then we have one for Boba Fett, a command card just for Boba, which is Mandalorian Task. Amazing name for a card. Boba Fett's the only person that can use this. Takes 2 actions. Perform 2 attacks. Apply +1 surge to each attack. Instead of choosing one ability from Battle Discipline, apply all of its listed abilities. 3 points, 1 per deck. I think this one's pretty good for Boba. And take Boba, you're going to take this card.
Yeah, I think you just said it. I think it's one of the. It's just another named character's card, right? If you're playing Boba, odds are you're playing this card. I don't think there's like. It's kind of a no-brainer. I mean, this card is definitely really good. I think the 2 actions is like one of the more obnoxious parts, but it's kind of like pummel.
But you're taking 2 attacks.
Yeah. And they're both going to be pretty solid attacks because I can pretty much guarantee you your +1 surge is going to be for damage.
Not to mention you already have range, so you're guaranteeing that range 5.
Right. And then, if you get another surge, you can throw on Pierce 2 or whatever, right? This is definitely a really good card. Again, it kind of falls into
Pierce 1.
Yeah, did I say Pierce 2? My bad.
You said Pierce 2, which is what I don't like about. The only thing I don't like about him is he's only Pierce 1.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's shooting blasters, man. It's not a lightsaber, so that kind of makes sense. But yeah, yeah, like I said, I think this card, like, just file it away with all the other like unique character cards. I think the only one that I really just dislike is Jin Dan's, but it has its uses, I guess. But like I said, I think most of the characters where it has their name on it, if you're playing that character, you're probably going to play the card.
All right, so now we have one more card to talk about for Skirmish. I'll save the. I don't like talking about the campaign missions because I feel like there's a lot of people that want those alone. Maybe not. I'd rather, if I'm playing campaign, not know about them. But the one I really want to talk about is explosive armament, and I think this really affects 2 figures the most, maybe 3. It takes 1 point. It's unique. Upgrade, which is the first one of these we see. So you put one of these attachments on a hunter or droid only, and each figure in that group gains surge. It takes 2 surge, and they get +1 damage and blast 2. I think this is really, really good for the Ord Mantell map. So if you're going to take, you might want to consider this card. If you have the 1 point, go ahead and spend it because this is kind of a great card to have because of the 2 blast. It takes 2 surge though, so getting those 2 surge is going to be a little bit difficult. He does die, so getting it won't be as hard as it could be, I guess. How do you feel about this one?
Well, my first reaction to this card was I really, really wish you could have had this allied into a Pro Droid.
Can you not?
No, you can't, because you can't. The ally cards don't let you do skirmish upgrades. That was part of the fact.
It's not a deployment card, is it?
Nope, it's a skirmish upgrade. So that's why that was my first thought when I saw what it did was surge for blast 2. I was learning +1 damage. I was like, wow, can I take this with the Elite Pro, please? Right?
Okay.
but of course you can't. So that hurts. That hurts. I think this basically becomes a scum card, right? And when you start talking about scum cards, right? There's only
two figures.
well, no, there's a few other hunters, but there's really only like most of the hunters you're not going to be able to get the 2 surges on very easily.
Because the Trando hunters, they fire a blue and a yellow or blue and a green.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really hard to get the surge.
Well, and like the only ones you can get blue, green, right, because of their ability to focus themselves. But even then, it's like, am I really going to take this just so I can randomly get blast 2 here and there? I'm not sure about that.
Right.
I think it's definitely. I think it could be worth on IG88.
Absolutely.
Because he can pick his dice and he has the innate accuracy and stuff, and so if he wants to go for it, he can just go like yellow, right?
Well, I think red-yellow even.
No, because the red, you worry about getting the second surge, right? Because there's only one side on the red that has a surge on it.
Well, there's one side on the yellow that has 2 surges on it.
Well, yeah, but again, you're like totally dependent on getting that double. If you go yellow, you're virtually guaranteeing you're going to get 2 surges.
It depends. It depends on if you need the surges.
Well, I mean, you need 2 to trigger the ability, so you're going to need the surges, right?
So if you go yellow, there's a damage on every side? No, there's not a damage on every side.
No, there's not a damage on every side. Again, it's a tricky card to work in. Actually, honestly, after I realized that you could not take this on steroids, I felt like this card was not very good. I was a little disappointed. Let me put it that way, because the Blast 2, like you look at that, and everybody's talking about Blast 2 because of the Elite Rebel Saboteurs, right? And you look at that and you're like, oh my gosh, another opportunity for Blast 2. Surge, who can I make that work on? Unfortunately, most of the stuff in Scum, it's going to be relatively tricky to make that work. And so, for 1 point, especially only on like on an IG88, you only get to use it on IG88 because he's the only model in his group, right? It's just relatively limited.
Right. I think it works best on IG88 better than Boba Fett. Mainly because you can go yellow. Even though with the blue-green, you have a pretty high chance of getting 2 surges.
Well, you could go green-yellow or something like that too. I mean, it's not like because I think the green dice has like a 50% chance of surge, so that mitigates it. But even again, if you're trying to get Blast 2, you're not going to want to not get the second surge, right?
Right.
You don't want to miss. Right, so that's where you would probably end up going yellow or something like that, and then just hoping, right?
So you're looking at about 3 damage on IG88 if you do.
Yeah.
Maybe 4 because you do have the surge ability.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not huge on this card only because, like I said, only because they're of the hunters and droids that are Scum. It's going to be relatively tricky to take it. Now, and there's no real rebel hunters or droids that I'm aware of, so that limits it as well. Because you could hypothetically take this in a Scum list and then ally in some rebel guys and put it on a rebel guy, but the rebels don't really have those traits. At least if they do, I'm not thinking of it. Maybe R2D2 and 3PO when they get but.
Wait, hold on. It just has to be a hunter or a droid, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Biv is a hunter.
Oh, it has these Scum.
Oh, Biv is a hunter. All right. Yeah, but his dice is blue-red, right?
Blue-green.
Blue-green?
No, red. It's red, blue, yellow.
Wait, who?
Oh, yeah, okay. He's pretty good with it then. That's fair.
Who are we talking about?
Biv. The new guy, the new rebel heavy hitter guy from the big box.
Yeah, but you won't be able to include this card on him.
Yeah, you can because you're main Scum.
Yeah, but I was thinking Scum ability, you can only put that on a Scum card.
No. The limitation is that when you're allying in stuff, you can't ally in skirmish upgrades. So Imperial cannot really use this card because they can't ally it in.
Right, but I was thinking.
Start with Scum and ally in Rebels, you can put it on a Rebel guy.
Right, but I'm not saying that. I'm because it shows the Scum upgrade, it could only go on a Scum.
No,
you can.
No. That's not true. No, you can put it on.
It's part of the Scum faction.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe. I mean,
No, it's definitely good on Biv. I think that's he.
Okay.
I didn't realize Biv was a hunter, so that definitely helps Biv out a lot because blue, green, yellow, um, or what was it? Blue, red, green, or what did you say it was? What was his attack dice? I don't remember.
Red, blue, yellow, and then you can bring in Gideon to focus him.
You can bring in
Yeah,
Gideon
that's
for
right.
IG88.
Yeah, I do
Boba
think
Fett.
I think you've hit on something. I think Biv is really good with this card. I think I hadn't thought about that. I think he's definitely worth taking. I think that's probably the only case though. I don't see myself really taking this with IG8 and maybe Boba, maybe not. It kind of makes Boba more expensive. I don't know. I guess I do have a question though, Johnny, and maybe you know the answer to this, maybe not. The attachment card itself, does it give up points if they kill that guy?
Ooh. I think he went to go get some cake. No, he's eating
Okay.
it before.
Well, maybe we'll ask
if
him
you
when he
look
gets
on
back.
Johnny's, yeah, if
Yes,
you look
yeah.
on Johnny's screen, he's not even.
Yeah. No, but that's actually a good question because, like, let's say you did put it on Boba, right? Does that make him cost 14 basically, right? Because it's an upgrade to Boba, and if he dies, then the card would disappear, right?
Wait. Johnny just got his can of pop there. So,
Hey, Johnny, question: attachment cards, and I know we haven't really seen any actual rules for it yet, but if you attach this to, let's just say, Boba Fett, and then Boba Fett dies, do you get the point?
I'd say yes. I would say yes.
I mean, it's a skirmish
really
upgrade.
good
I can go
question.
either way on it because is a skirmish upgrade. Typically, you wouldn't, but because it is attached to him and it would technically get discarded, I would think you might.
All right, so Johnny
Johnny
has
doesn't
no
know.
idea.
Johnny doesn't know. All right. I guess we'll see when the rules come out for it. Because, like I said, I think all the other attachment cards that exist are all for the campaign, right? And so, there's no points, right? I mean, in a campaign, you kill the guy, you don't. And
Well, you kill, like, you lose the attachment. I don't know. I'm going to say you lose the points. You get the points.
I think it would make sense. It's kind of like an upgrade for that guy, right?
Because it says attachment. If it didn't say attachment, if it didn't attach to somebody.
Well, I just mean that, like, you kill the guy and technically the card would disappear, right? And
yeah.
so in that case, you would expect to get the points. But again, it is a skirmish upgrade, and typically those don't give up points. So there is a question there. Guess we'll see. That'll be in the rules.
Except first strike gives everybody 4 points.
And maybe I'll have to go back and check the rules. Maybe this is already covered. Maybe I'm getting ahead of it because I know there's attachments for the campaign where there's like cards where when you deploy a guy, you can attach this like upgrade for that unit in the campaign. But those are all from the Imperial player's deck and his specialization or whatever.
I'll tell you what. Let me look real fast.
Yeah. Okay. And so. But again, in that game, in the campaign, you're not typically keeping track of how many points you've killed, so it's not usually overly relevant. So Isaac's checking it out on the hunt.
Yeah, and you were right about the Blues question earlier that I pointed out. Skirmish upgrade cards. They do not.
Does the article say anything?
I didn't check the article. Let me see. Each figure in the group, drawing plans. No, it does not. It does not explicitly say. It talks about the card, but it doesn't say anything about how. It says that it can be granted to a dude in your army while it's enhanced with explosive orange. Each figure gets that stuff. Doesn't say anything about whether or not you get the points when you kill it.
All right, so actually, what the rules say is for skirmish upgrade cards, some deployment have the skirmish upgrade trait. These cards provide special abilities, but unlike normal deployment cards, they do not have corresponding figures. So it says nothing at all, and then it goes on to say
in the RRG. Is there like an attachment? Because I know that, like I said, in the campaign, there's definitely cards that you can attach to a unit. And a lot of times, like, if you kill that unit, it goes back to their hand or whatever, back to their deck, and they can try and get it back out on that guy. But that's, like I said, it's a campaign thing, so I don't know how that would work in the skirmish mode. Because, like I said, I think this is the first actual attachment card we've actually had, or at least seen.
Some Imperial class cards. List attachments. These cards can be attachment cards. Now this is all about the
Campaign.
All
right, well, I guess we'll see when the big box comes out.
Well, it does say that it works on both figures from the group.
Yeah. I think it says that on the card, right? It's just the question is, if you kill off that deployment card, do you get the points?
We can check that FAQ.
Well, like I said, it's not a pivotal thing. We can answer this question once the actual rules hit the street, right? But I hadn't thought about that when I originally saw it, and I think it'd be kind of interesting because if you did give up that point, that does make it a little less valuable too, right? If you're basically giving your opponent +1 point on that guy, potentially anyway.
Yeah, I can't find anything. Was that the last
Yeah,
thing?
neither.
Okay, well, like I said, we'll just have to wait till the rules come out, and if they're not in the new rules, then we'll hopefully get a backup entry to clarify that. But yeah, I think that does have a small measure on how good this card is, because if you do give up the points when that model dies, the 1 point, even though it doesn't sound like much.
Hold on.
0.
Okay, so the deployment cards entry on page should include the following bullet. Some deployment cards have the skirmish upgrade trait. Rules and abilities that reference deployment cards do not include and cannot manipulate skirmish upgrade cards unless the rule or ability states otherwise. So that says absolutely nothing. For example,
We're just gonna have to wait.
From other factions to. Okay, so this is the point that you were going on. For example, a player cannot use the card Temporary Alliance to add skirmish upgrade cards from the other faction to his army, or otherwise, as an example, when using initiative, players cannot choose to exhaust one of their skirmish upgrade cards. So, yeah, you definitely have to be of that faction. That's where that says, but it doesn't say anything about attachments. Except that little.
Well, like I said, not the end of the world. We'll find out soon enough.
All right, maybe. Well, I'm not gonna spoil anything. All right, so any other remarks that needs to be remarked on?
I wouldn't say that. Like I said, I think Boba's he's got a lot of interesting stuff. I think the pack's definitely worth having. I'm not. We'll see how good Boba ends up being. I think he's definitely good. I haven't tried building a list with him yet, so that'll be a bit of a exercise to see what we can come up with. But I definitely like him. I think the pack is pretty good overall.
I want to see if there's a good Boba IG88 list out there. I mean,
well, it's kind of like going Royal Guard Vader. It's one of those, like, it can work, but there's a lot of
you could
risk there, right? It's a lot of points.
Like you could do IG88, Boba, and then 2 Trandos. You're not doing a whole lot of activations. You only have 4 there, but
yeah,
that sounds incredibly fun, especially if you have a lot of surge ability. Yeah, it's like, what command deck do you have?
Well, and like, the real question is, how do you hold up on some of the maps? And I think, like, maybe the IG8 map, you might do pretty well. I think the Luke map would be a bit troublesome. The water map would be hard with only 6 models in your list, but and only 4 activations. That'd be a bit of a challenge. But no, like I said, I'm not necessarily discounting it yet. Like I said, I haven't really even thought about list yet. But looking at his points, I mean, he's 1 more point than Han Solo. I feel like Han Solo is pretty decent. He's a little overpriced, and I think Boba is definitely a little bit more reasonable, given his defenses and his attack. So
his ability to move incredibly fast.
Yeah, I definitely think 6 speed with mobile is pretty incredible. I mean, mobile already. I mean, I'm a guy who's been playing with the Elite Pro Droid quite a bit lately, and for a while now. And speed 4 with mobile seems ridiculous a lot of the time to me. So speed 6 with mobile is just crazy, right? I mean, that's really solid, to say the least.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, well, I think that's about it. Johnny's eating his cake or pie, whatever that is. It's making me a little bit more hungry. So, cake or pie, Johnny?
Oh shit! You put him on the spot. He's like, oh gosh, I gotta unmute.
Yeah.
My face.
Okay. Can I ask you this? Is soda or pop? See, where I'm from, we use both words to describe the same thing. Soda or pop, it's the same thing. What about you guys?
Oh, it's soda here. I'm Texas. That's soda, man. There's no such thing as pop. That's
all right. What about you, Johnny? I know there's even a third faction that says soda pop, and where I'm from, that's it's kind of rare. There is a couple.
Johnny's like
that,
Cola.
Okay, cola.
All right.
I can. All right. Well, until next time, I'm Tori.
I'm Hita77.
I'm Jeremy 15.
All right.